You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jordan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Boom! That's exactly it.
Do that. Let's do that. I find myself giggling. Keep the king going. Keep Elvis going for a second. Little more. Oh, you got no words. You got it. You know.
It's coming. Here we go.
I know, buddy. Little more action. I mean, that's awesome. You know, there's nothing better than the king. That's been my tradition, as you may know. Every Friday, closing time, you have to listen to American Trilogy by the King.
Well, we got him early. So, middle of the week.
Good.
Still, what? 2.5 more days to sell.
Listen, there's nothing better than starting the year with the King. And, that's the beginning and the end of everything is Elvis. You know, everybody else, there's drama about Elvis too. But, Colonel Parker said that. He said, 1,000 years from now, no one's going to remember the Rolling Stones, but they'll remember Elvis. Well, they may remember the Rolling Stones too, but the King will still be around. And so
I think 100 years from now, Mick Jagger may still be alive. Keith Richards as well.
That's right.
I think it's entirely possible. That's the prediction that I'm making at the top of 2023 is that Keith Richards will live forever.
Getting this show produced by the great Chris Stone is almost like working with the King. That's what it is. It's that good. It's so close to excellence. That's great. So you went to Disney?
I went to Disney. I did not go to Graceland. Although, have you ever been to Graceland in Memphis?
I ever been to, my bedroom is the jungle room. I mean, I am all Elvis all the time. I got to tell you, I went there. I was on my hitchhiking trip. Great story. And I met this girl in Louisiana from Australia. And she had a car and she wanted to go see Graceland. And so I hitched a ride with this Australian gal and we drove up to Memphis and we hung out there for a few days. And it was a very memorable experience. I felt like a king. It was very good. That was my first Elvis experience live there. But we've been back since. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the King. That's my one guy. Only albums I ever purchased were Elvis.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, never bought another
only albums you've ever purchased. And we talked about this pre-show. Even though you're just such a monster Elvis fan and you've bought Elvis and that's the only Elvis records the only records you've ever bought, you actually were in a punk band. So ladies and gentlemen, here, breaking news on Dan Jordan Live, DJ Live, hashtag DJ Live. Dan Jordan was in a punk band in New Jersey.
Well, I was, you can't call it it was, a pseudo. I was a kid. And so that was what was hot at the time. And so you felt cool there, but it was cool. And we're big into World War II stuff. And so all the songs were, you want me to sing? Okay, you're begging me to sing. All dressed in uniform, so fine we drank and killed to pass the time, wearing the shames of all their crimes. With measured steps, they walked in line. And that's the chorus. They walked in line. Anyway, so we went nuts with that thing. But that's not what people are here to see. The fact is, we played gigs. We were terrible, but we played gigs. So we figured out ways to get out there. And salespeople out there that are putzing around trying to make this your best year ever are looking for all this kind of sneaky ways to get more customers. And sometimes the best way to get more customers is to let other people do the the kind of office work and the kind of back office stuff for you, so you could be out there in front of the crowd, on stage, doing what you do best with your sales and presenting your product. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how the world's greatest segue artist, myself, brings in our next guest, who has done all that you wish you could do. Now, I have been utilizing new technology, Chris Stone. You can't imagine this.
Shut up. No.
Oh,
shut
yes.
the front door.
So I was going to write an intro for our awesome next guest, but I said, you know what? Let's see what Chat GPT, the AI, can do with it. So with my first AI version of introduction for our best guest of the year.
Oh, absolutely the best guest of the year.
By far.
Oh,
let me introduce 100%. My new friend, who, by the way, I'll say this afterwards. Okay, Brad Stevens is the founder and CEO of Outsource Access, a company that provides outsource support and solutions to businesses. Actually, that wasn't the good one. With his businesses who their problems. Hold on, let me back off.
Let's welcome Brad Stevens.
No, hold on. Okay, Brad Stevens. Listen, dude, check this out. I did Chat GPT how to introduce you, and then I said make it funny. And so the first line changed from Brad Stevens is the founder and CEO of Outsource Access, a company that helps businesses outsource their problems to someone else. And when he's not busy avoiding responsibility, Brad can often be found lounging on the beach somewhere, sipping a cocktail and enjoying the fruits of his labor. He's known as the king of cop-outs. Please help me welcome my man, Brad Stevens.
Woo! Let's be a guinea pig on some AI technology.
That's it, that you are. So what's going on? Let me tell you, Chris Stone and anyone else watching, I met Brad Stevens because I was at the co-working space Rome, which I work out of. And I was on a conversation with somebody, and then he was there, and we got into a conversation. And you ever meet somebody and you know they're like on a different level than you? They're just like, brilliant. They're able to do things that other people aren't able to do. And I said, this is exactly the guy that I want on the show.
And show smarter. That's what you thought, right?
Exactly. And so I'm going to ask him a question, but Chris Stone, if you could pull up Brad Stevens' LinkedIn page, and there's like one post that he put out that I'm just seeing a week ago, which shows, but I'm looking at a post of there's 300 people in a room for their year-end party. So pull that thing up. So how the heck? I mean, Brad Stevens, when you started your company. Yeah, look at that. How many people were at your Christmas party, Chris Stone?
At my Christmas party?
Yeah, your year-end.
I was at Disney, so more than this.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so how many people came to your year-end, the cast ahead Christmas party? I mean, I'm looking at this. I get nervous just looking at how the heck. This is what everybody's dream is, Brad Stevens, to start a company and to be able to manage that many employees. How the heck did you do that?
Well, thanks for the share. That's actually the first time somebody's brought up a post on a podcast interview. So thanks for pointing that out. Our team is doing a good job. Back to the point of automating and delegating. I didn't post this, so proud to say that was done on the backside. But and funny enough, Dan, actually that is only one of 3 parties that we have, because we've grown to a size that we had to kind of split our parties. So that was the third of 3, because our staff are kind of distributed into three different cities. But to be honest, I don't manage all, and we're close to right at 500 employees here, just 3.5 years later. So that was about 300 at our last function. But the key to it is learning everything I've learned as an entrepreneur for the last 20 years, and how to find the right people in the right seats. I'm a huge Jim Collins person. It's about first who, then what. Because there's no way in the world we could build this company, especially growing in the middle of COVID and being on the other side of the world, based in the Philippines, without having the right people, in the right seats and using a lot of systems and processes, and letting things go. Being able to trust people to kind of run and grow the business. So there's a lot to the story, but it starts with the right people in the right seats. If I go back to myself in my early 20s, that's the best advice I would tell myself is pay more, get the right people. Don't satisfy for 7s in your life. 7s are the ones that create all the heartache and the frustration. Only shoot for 9s and 10s. Those are folks that'll take you to the moon.
Wow. Okay. Well, so that leads to the next question is, how do you decide who are the 9 and 10s and who are the 7s? Are there any telltale signs that you found with those people? And I guess these aren't salespeople; these are administration people, or the people that do the work that you do.
It's everyone in my life that I kind of interface with, because it's, as we know, what's the quote? The average of the 5 people that you're around the most, and it replicates itself in our company and our business. And you get those one individuals that are the cancer in the situation, ends up creating a much bigger problem. But for me, it's a collection of things that we put people through. But I'm a huge fan of the different assessments that are out there. You've got DISC, you've got Colby, you've got Culture Index, you got Predictive Index. So when we go to hire people, we have about 12 to 15 different kind of assessments, everything from IQ testing, emotional intelligence testing, project management capability, and then different personality type profiles. Because one of them only gives you one dimension and one perspective. DISC only tells you one perspective, but you do a couple of them and it gives you a multi-angle perspective to see what does this individual look like, and how are they going to perform best in the business, and where are they aligned or not aligned. So I'm a big fan of assessments that we do. Then top grading. I'm a huge fan of top grading, which I'm sure you maybe have heard of. I mean, book written and a whole philosophy about the interview process. And honestly, going back to my days in college, I remember interviewing for these high-end consulting firms, the McKinseys and the Bains and so forth of the world. And case study-based interviews are a critical part of our hiring process. So I just brought on a chief marketing officer.
Wait, explain that. What a case study thing.
So part of it is it's knowing how people assess a situation, and you can learn a lot by just the questions that they ask. So it starts with, I give somebody a vague kind of circumstance that they're dealing with. So our chief marketing officer, I say, hey, here's where we are. Here's where we're trying to grow and expand. Here's what some of the challenges are. What are the 10 questions you would ask me to get more clarity around this situation first, right? And I don't want any answers. I just want, or solutions yet. I just purely want to know, what are the 10 questions that you would ask me to get more clarity about this situation? And I can learn more on the way that they ask questions than pretty much any other perspective. And then secondly, after asking those questions, we'll give them some additional data points and then ask them to put together very open-endedly, don't tell them how long, what format, what template, to do a presentation of what type of solution that they would provide based on the information given. And, we interviewed 3 CMO officers, and I had one that did a half job and had blank slides and very little effort, all the way to one that designed them, organized them, put detail behind it, put a lot more data and metrics. So how they do the assessments, variety of them to see different perspectives. How do they ask questions, the types of questions that they ask to address problems? And then how do they present themselves when they actually presented their solution for the case study? What was the thoroughness, the detail and structure, and how they communicated that? So we use some format of that with everybody we hire at the C-suite level, all the way down to frontline virtual assistants that we hire for our business.
I'm telling you what, I'm taking notes. This is what it feels like to interview Elon Musk.
You got the Franklin Covey planner out, making notes there?
Yeah, I absolutely do. It's the Franklin planner.
Nice.
I'm all over.
I'm a huge 4 disciplines of execution person, which is a Covey concept as well. We use a blend of that in our business.
Yes. Yeah. And I've been using the Franklin Covey. You take stuff from different books that you read, but the main thing I got from the 7 Habits book was to start with the end in mind, and I use that for everything, even building marketing campaigns. Start with the end in mind. People start writing the lead magnets and they forget they don't have anything to sell yet, and so they get bogged down. So you start from the backwards and go forwards. All right. Well, so this is awesome. So this can't be your first go round into business if you've got 500 of these people now. Where did you get started from? What was your first business?
Yeah, so I met here in Atlanta, so I'm originally from Atlanta and kind of grew up in a bit of an entrepreneurial type of environment. So my first company actually was a toy rental business in 3rd grade. You remember Micro Machines, those little tiny toys?
Oh, yeah.
Like the guy in the commercials that spoke 1,000 miles an hour, kind of like I do right now. But I asked for those for all of my birthdays and Christmas, and my parents used to drink Crown Royal from time to time. So I had those purple velvet bags. And so I amassed like 600 of them, and I took them into my little 3rd, 4th grade elementary school and rented them to all of my friends. So, most entrepreneurs have that lemonade stand type of story, but that was mine. And I started a tutoring company in high school. Then after college, and ended up graduating from Wharton Business School, came back, was going to work for another company for a couple of years. They went under right before I was supposed to start with them. And so I had that fork in the road, to get another job offer or go ahead and down this entrepreneurial path I figured I was going to do anyway. So that's all I've done. I'm 43 now, and that's all I've done the last 23 years. So first business, we was in the medication space, helping low-income people qualify for free medications. Then we started a nutritional products company. Then started a teeth whitening business where we manufacture and distribute teeth whitening products with a partner in the dental and the beauty industry. And it was actually in that business that I had a product disaster happen where we had a manufacturer change a component on this teeth whitening pen that caused gas to build up in this product. And we would ship it out, and it would either crack and ooze all over the place, or it would actually shoot across the room. You could open the thing and enough gas built up, the thing would shoot across the room. And that was my COVID back a number of years ago. Cash got tight. I'd been hearing about this whole gig economy, outsourcing world. And I was forced to learn about it and how do you leverage this amazing talent all over the world that's cost effective to kind of help save our business at the time. So I ended up leveraging that knowledge. And once we ended up exiting that business, I kind of took that knowledge set, did a lot of speaking, consulting. I've spoken for hundreds of organizations on it. And in 2019, decided just, why don't I just launch my own operation? And so we did. And so leveraged that experience and knowledge to launch Outsource Access to provide virtual assistants and staff for small to medium business owners. And we're not looking back. We're looking to double next year. Hope to get to about 1,000 employees by the end of next year in about 4.5 years.
Well, so now, how do you, if you're hiring this many employees, you must need them. How are you getting the customers? I want to go back to the business building, because I think each salesperson has their own individual business themselves, a sales army of one type of things. But how are you, the main thing to be in business is getting that customer. So now is probably a little different than when you got started, but what's the process you use to acquire customers to afford these employees?
So a lot of it to like what we're doing right now is thought leadership and establishing authority in the space. So when it comes to the whole concept of outsourcing, is using virtual assistants and so forth, in the small to medium business market, which is we wanted to go after, there's lots of what I call DFCs, doubt, fears, and concerns, right? And what about it? What about time zones? What about competency? What about language barriers? What about this, that, and the other, right? And so I had to go through all that myself and learn how to navigate that and how do you really make this effective, that it's not this novelty concept, but something you can really integrate. And so a lot of what I did to prime the pump in the beginning is just lots of speaking for business organizations. I'm a part of an organization called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. I've spoken for 70, 80 or their chapters globally. Vistage, YPO, Sage, all these different business mastermind groups with small to medium business and medium owners. I would go do 2 to 3 hour workshops for these organizations. And I just got incredible response. I mean, the first one I did, people kept me for an hour and a half afterwards, and I got a 9.7 out of 10 rating. And then word just traveled. And I just kind of brought this clarity to the small to medium business market. People would come into the room, and the topic, my theme would be redefine how you scale, how to automate and delegate with offshore virtual staff. And people would come in with all these doubts, fears, and concerns. And I would go through my whole journey, how I found a young woman at 23 who's now my chief operating officer over 500 people, how I learned to communicate, how I leveraged and worked with these resources in marketing, operations, sales, customer service, and integrated them into our business. And then show them all the tools. Like, what were the failure points that most people fail at where this is concerned? And then I'd go through about 30 case studies. Hey, here's a commercial HVAC business with a bunch of people driving around in trucks. How in the world are they using somebody in the Philippines? Well, they've quadrupled in 3 years because of doing that. Or here's a concrete manufacturer, here's an insurance agent, or here's a national speaker. I would share every industry, every function of business, so that they walked out of that room completely opening their eyes that this is a way that they can grow and scale more cost effectively. So at the beginning, that's what a lot of it was. I did a lot of authority building, addressed the doubt, fears, and concerns, and do all the speaking that I did for these different organizations. And for 2 to 3 hours, I just would educate them. A lot of it was just pure education about what this world is, how it's different than you've perceived it to be, and how you can really integrate it and use it to grow and scale. So that's really what primed the pump to begin with. I launched a podcast called Automate and Delegate. And then just because we put the customer at the center of our experience, right? Back to, I'm a massive Jim Collins person. and you create the flywheel experience. And if you do a phenomenal job of treating that customer, referrals just come like crazy. And so referrals came, and then existing clients adding additional staff was way more than we anticipated. We thought they'd hire 1, 2, 3, 4. But once people realized what we were providing for, $1,900 a month, they're getting a full-time staff with competency. They're like, hey, I want to add one to marketing. I want to add one to operations. I want to support my HR team. And so that was a lot of organic growth as well that happened.
That's excellent. Now, these people, do they, when let's say, listen, let me ask you. So if somebody comes to you with an industry you're not familiar with, medical sales or something like that.
Sure.
Someone's a medical sales guy. I come to you and I say, listen, I want to do more. I'm only one man. I need to do more with my clients and stuff like this. Can you, well, I don't even know. I'm a sales guy. I don't even know what I need you to do. Right. Do you know what I need?
Yeah, see, I don't know what I don't know, right? And it's kind of like when my journey was, when I got my very first VA in the Philippines. And just so people know, the reason why the Philippines is so unique, and I didn't know this myself until kind of got involved, is that, the United States kind of controlled the Philippines up until 1950. So it's very different than all the rest of Southeast, Asia. It's Americanized culture. English is their second language. I mean, they're coming out with 4-year college degrees. And so you don't have that culture gap, right, that you have with some other situations. So when I hired my very first kind of VA, I mean, she plugged right in, right? And English wasn't a problem. I mean, amazing English. You wouldn't even know in a lot of cases they're even from the Philippines. But we didn't have that kind of gap. And so for me, it was like, it came down to 2 questions, and we still do this today kind of when we work with people, is A, what are the things that you're doing every day that you don't feel and know aren't the best use of your time, right? And I know simple question, right? Not super complicated, right? But as you're sitting down there kind of doing the responses to LinkedIn connections, or you're doing research for a potential client, or you're gathering or doing, you know in your head, this is not the highest and best use of my capability and time, right? So we ask people, look, take an audit of yourself, and over the course of kind of a month, what are the things you're doing, and catch yourself, even kind of keep a list of things. As you start doing that thing and that little voice is telling you, this is not the best use of my time, right? Mm-hmm. Make a list of those things, and then just give yourself an estimate of how many hours you're spending per month on that particular thing. And a lot of people are like, yeah, that isn't, maybe a couple hours. They start taking time. They're like, well, I spend 6 hours a month doing that. What's the value of an additional closed deal? Well, what if you allocated that 6 hours to actually spending more time on closing deals than checking your LinkedIn connections and doing responses? Like, I have a VA that lives in my LinkedIn account all day that does nothing but handle all that engagement for you. Then the second question is, what are the things on the radar that you want to be doing, that you want to get to, that you're not due to time, money, or knowledge constraints? And so we ask clients those 2 simple questions, and we tell them to send them to their staff as well, is take time over the next week or so and fill out those two lists. And it is amazing if people put the time and effort. Well, you know what? I got all this raw footage. I'd love to kind of post my, get more testimonial videos done. And I'd like to be doing more LinkedIn, and I'd like to be doing more social media posting. And I'd like to actually, my bookkeeping, I got receivables happening, but I don't have time to reach out to those people. Or, my HR people are having to deal with, chasing down people to do interviews. So everybody's got that list, and it's amazing. I've had owners that come to us and say, all right, Brad, I did what you said. We sent it to our staff. I had employees who've been with me for 10 years come back with a list of 52 things. And you're like, well, you've been with me 10 years. Why didn't you tell me that before? Well, you never really asked me, right? Mm. And so people don't do that with themselves. So those are the 2 questions that we tend to ask people. And when they really take time to dump that out, that creates, honestly, Jordan, Dan, a runway of stuff that we can chew on immediately. But then the other thing is, because we've worked with so many clients in so many different industries, we have playbooks for all the things we've been doing for people that are in medical sales, right? And all the nuanced, unique types of things in medical sales, right? As far as doing thank you letters, or all your clients you have that have birthdays, or having a VA that can log in and send automated handwritten letters out of Thankster.com and that kind of thing. So we have playbooks that we do for clients in similar industries that we can reference and say, hey, here's a list of 72 things that we're doing in similar types of industries. Could these be a fit for you as well?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that playbook is good. So those 2 questions, just for so I could write them down. What were those 2 questions again?
Number 1, what are the things that you are doing that are not the best use of your time, and how many hours per month on average are you spending doing those, right? And truly take the time to jot those down. So many people just don't realize how much it adds up. Every day you spend 7 to 10 minutes or 20 to 30 minutes on X task over the course of a month. And a month is a good time slot, because then it becomes a material amount of time that becomes 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. So what are those things you're doing that you know there aren't the best use of your time, and how many hours per month you're spending on it? And then the second question is, what are the things that are on the radar that you want to be getting to, right? I've been wanting to launch a podcast. I've been wanting to write a book. I've been wanting to do, follow-ups with all of my list of clients, tickler file that I haven't touched in forever. What are the things you want to be doing that you're not getting to, either due to time constraints, money constraints, right? I want to do it, I don't have the money to spend on it, or knowledge constraints. I'd love to do a lot more in LinkedIn, and I'd love to take advantage of all the bells and whistles in LinkedIn for my account and have someone log in, but I don't even know how to do it, right? So time, money, and knowledge constraints. Those are the two questions, and we've done it zillions of times. It's amazing. If people are honest with themselves and put an effort in, it creates a tremendous runway of stuff we can really help tackle for folks.
A zillion is a lot. A lot of people don't realize the length of a zillion. Actually, I saw this on a little podcast.
It's like a Google.
Like, if you had to guess how long, if you would take 1,000,000 seconds, how long do you think that would be? Chris Stone, I'll ask you. I don't want to put my
don't make me do math, Dan.
Yeah, you just make it up.
Let me take
just pick a number. Pick a number.
1,000,000 seconds.
1,000,000 seconds. How many days?
14 years.
I don't know. Close. It's 11 days. 11 days is 1,000,000 seconds. This is important because people toss out these big numbers.
Time flies when you're on Dan Jordan Live.
Yeah, you know what a billion is? A billion is 31,000 days. Actually, when they say it's just a billion, it's 31,000 if a billion was a second. Anyway, a zillion, even more than that. So it's important because people do. And now that just when you told me those two questions, now I'm a list guy. I mean, that's what I do. I write down, I have right here the time, I'm focus time, a 2 hour. I'm very painfully, annoyingly organized with my time that way. I've just refocused on it. But it's terrifying. It's terrifying to do that because not only do you see all the time, that you're doing those extra things, but you also see all the time that you flip and just waste doing nothing, and it makes you, when you can give, let me ask you this question. Do you ever run into the problem that people say, well, if I had somebody else do that, what would I do?
Well, it depends on who you're talking about, right? So it's about getting, part of the philosophy around this, it's about getting people to their highest and best use of time. I mean, that's ultimately where you want to get everybody to. So as an owner, and the problem with entrepreneurs and business owners a lot of times is they get so used, and there's a reason why only 4% of businesses in the United States ever get over $1 million, right? Only 4%, which is a shocking number that a lot of people don't realize. And a lot of it is because they can't ever get out of their own way, right? And I can say this myself included in my earlier years as well. That's one of the biggest challenges is getting out of your own way so that you can focus on those higher level type of functions. But the problem is that so many people get so caught, particularly like startup entrepreneurs and small business owners. If you own a plumbing operation or you're a 1 or 2 person, you get so used to firefighting, you don't know any different, right? So it becomes just like you almost need to firefight for those endorphin hits because that's just kind of what you're used to. And it's only those that want to elevate beyond that and build an organization and work on versus in. And then that's those that say, what am I going to do with my time, right? So instead of me as an owner spending 6.5 hours on WordPress trying to get my website right that I'm trying to launch, right? Go spend those 6 hours at Chamber of Commerce events and being on podcasts and closing deals, which is your superpower, and go hire a virtual assistant for $100 that can go to the WordPress website just perfect and done instead of wasting your time doing it. And a lot of people can't make that jump in terms of thinking through the lens of opportunity cost for everything. On the employee side, you have to give people psychological safety. And if you've got employees that push back on it, right? Because the right employees want to be focusing on those higher value activities. Those that kind of poo-poo this, at the end of the day, they like not having to work harder with their brain. They don't want to wake up and work on the higher level activities. They'd rather do all of the kind of mundane type of stuff a lot of times and don't want to push to that next level.
So you could really take any business and bring them to the next level.
I mean, that's what we have experienced. That's why our tagline and our whole philosophy is redefine how you scale. Because once people wrap their head around this, just like my own personal journey, and we'll share links and so forth. I got a 90-minute webinar I've recorded on this, right? The talk that I give for that 3-hour workshop, I have it down to a 90-minute webinar where I go through and explain. But it's like my own journey, right? When I had my very first VA, J-Cell, from the Philippines, And I hired her, and I was like, she's going to manage my email and do some, light, maybe travel, maybe help figure out where to have my daughter's birthday party, find some pony groups we can rent. Then I started working with her and realized competency and ability. And I just kept adding more and more things. One day my watch was broken, right? And I tried to get it fixed and went to go get the battery replaced. It wasn't the battery. And I was like, let me try it. So I took a picture of it, sent it over to her. She zoomed in, found the manufacturer in Dallas, went on their website, filled out all the paperwork. And then because I use a tool called Dashlane to give her login access to things without actually giving her login, she logged in my UPS account, created the shipping label, and had it in my inbox the next day. So I just woke up and all I do is hit print it out, take off my watch, drop it, and ship it off, right? It's the death by paper cuts in life. And that's just a personal example. And then on the business side, there's infinite numbers of things that can continue to add in it. But it's any business, that's what we realize. Like we operate in about 50 different industries. We are very industry agnostic and function agnostic. Every single business can use this type of applicability. They just have to make a mindset shift to try it, engage it. And honestly, the number one word is confidence, right? Because I can tell people how great all this stuff is, but it's the magical moment. Like with one of our clients, they get a VA from us for the first time, and they're like, oh my gosh, like she wrote great English. She was competent. She actually did this task and then thought 3 steps ahead and did this task. And she's actually created a playbook and documented all of it. Oh yeah, let me give her this and this. Because they have this like dam of subconscious things they want to have them do, but they don't have confidence yet. And as soon as they have that first experience, like I did with J-Cell, when all of a sudden, like I just sent her a picture of my watch, and before I know it, I got shipping labels in my inbox to print it to ship it out the next day. I was like, let me give her more of this and this and this and this. And that's when it snowballs. I mean, our largest client has 92 staff with us, right? Because they're in the business of loan documentation processing. And so our staff that work with them have never done this before in their life. But within a couple of weeks, got them trained up that they're processing loan documentation and paperwork and stuff for clients at scale like they've never seen before, down to clients that have just 1 or 2. So it's just a wide range. It's not a matter of industry. It's not a matter of function. It's purely the mindset of an individual, whether you're a solo salesperson, like commercial real estate agents. We have a ton of commercial real estate agents that we work with. They close one deal, they make 15, 20 grand. They pay for a VA's an entire year and one closed additional deal. And there's tons of stuff underneath, right? It's just they had to make that mindset shift to make that transition.
Very interesting. So it's not just business stuff, it's any stuff. This is your assistant.
Well, we call it virtual staff. To be honest, I'm trying to shift away even the word from virtual assistant, because when we say virtual assistant, people think it's a glorified person that can get your laundry or your coffee, right? It's really like I thought with J-Cell, I put in that virtual assistant bucket. Oh, she's going to manage my email, maybe book some flights for me, and maybe help find out, what present to get my wife for her for our anniversary, right? What I realized is it's more, we're plugging in and doing operations, marketing, customer service, bookkeeping. So yes, we are directly working with owners and CEOs and being an assistant or high-end sales staff. And we have a whole division we do called sales acceleration and sales administration for people that are high-end salespeople. Like I spoke at a huge technology conference that's room full of nothing but high-end salespeople who sell to people like Amex and Coca-Cola. Those people want to do nothing but closing deals every day. And how do you take all that stuff that they don't need to be doing administratively and take it off of their plate? So yeah, it's a wide range of things depending on kind of what circumstance that they're in.
And it's $2,000 a month.
Yeah, I mean, our price and ours is fully managed. So actually, I set up a full corporate entity in the Philippines. So we hire everybody as full-time employees there. We pay their health insurance, we pay their benefits. We create a culture of engagement. So they're a part of a company and an organization on our side of the fence at Outsource Access. But if you ask any of our staff, they feel like they're a part of their team, kind of an extension of their team. Yeah. So for $18.95 a month, basically, and we charge $4.95 to do initial discovery assessment, right? And it's fully refundable. If we can't find you a match or no questions asked whatsoever, we'll fully refund it. But we want people to have skin in the game too, right? We don't want some Yahoo entrepreneur that thinks they're going to launch the next big business and wasting our time. So we charge a little bit up front to do that discovery, deep dive assessment, do those 2 questions process, really get clarity about what the needs are. But if we can't find you a match and you don't believe in us or no questions asked, we happily fully refund it. But we want people to put skin in the game. And then after that, once we find a match, we charge $18.95 a month for a dedicated, full-time, resource working with them for their business. And there's no long-term contracts, right? I don't believe in that. At the end of the day, if we're delivering, people will add a second, a third, a fourth. So we try to just put our money where our mouth is in terms of performance. And then we have over 200 specialized people supporting that staff. So if there's a one-off thing that you needed, so say, for example, you got a bunch of raw footage and you want some testimonials videos done and want music and so forth added to it, we are able to do that with a one-off specialized resource if that staff didn't have that particular expertise. So it's trying to create a one-stop shop kind of experience.
So but they are, if that's something that you need on a regular basis, some sort of editing or something like that, they could do that.
Right. When we do the discovery process and we figure out, hey, this person's going to be needing to do videos for me on a regular basis. Like we have a client of ours that he's got a big YouTube channel that does guitar lessons, right? And so he needed somebody to do a bunch of marketing and CRM work, but also help edit all of his YouTube videos for his guitar lessons. So when we did that discovery session, that's going to be a standard part of what they're doing. So we would bring somebody on that's their full-time person or resource that does have that expertise. And we also have boot camps that we put people through. So we also train people up on certain skills, like bookkeeping. If something you needed was I need this person to also kind of do some like QuickBooks bookkeeping work. Even if we can't find somebody that's got a CPA, it's not rocket science, right? And a lot of the stuff isn't. And so we'll train them up. We have a boot camp. We train them up on it and get them trained on that skill set so we can prep them for it if it is something they're going to be doing on a consistent basis.
It's interesting. So you brought up. I'm sorry, Dan. So you brought up the $18.95 a month, and Dan and I both use virtual staff as well. In
good use of words.
And the mindset was a big thing for me in terms of, because I'm a recovering perfectionist. And of course I was working, more on than, or more in on whatever the phrase was, too much in the weeds of my own business to allow me to do it. And I've never looked back. It's helped me scale tremendously. And part of it though was sort of like, how does this work in terms of this pricing? And so I'm sort of curious, is it, it sounds like you're assigning a specialist for a particular business, or maybe multiple specialists based on what is needed. Is it sort of like you're logging in X amount of hours per week, per month, based on that particular price, and then when it goes over and above that, how does that work in terms of how maybe a solopreneur or a small business who's looking at it going, how do I carve out that in my business to be able to sort of, of course we know it's going to make you money. Like you said, we know that, but someone that's out there right now and is like going, this makes sense. I know I need to do this, but how does that work for me? How many hours is this person putting in for me for that price?
Yeah. So I chose, and again, our business model from doing a lot of it before I launched this, one of the failure points I personally found is that the fractional concept really didn't work, right? So there's companies I found that are like, hey, if you want 10 hours a week, you want 15 hours a week. The problem is you're getting a fraction of a person. And at least my experience is those companies hire those people as contractors as well. So they have high turnover. You've built this trust and engagement and learning and education with them. And then all of a sudden it can disappear. And that person is also maybe split among 2 or 3 people, right? Mm-hmm. What we found is it is worth it. So our minimum entry point is 1 full-time person. A lot of people are like, well, I don't know if I could use somebody for 40 hours. So your question is it's 40 hours per week, full-time person dedicated to you and only you. This person isn't split among anyone else because we want to know you, your business, do a deep dive and get clarity. I mean, we get to know people's mission, their core values. I mean, we even have some of our staff in the United States or clients in the US, they're actually flying their VAs over from the Philippines to be a part of their trade shows because they built such a connection. Maybe they even ship swag over to them and what have you. So it's about building not this one-off vendor kind of relationship, but an integrated person that deep dives and understands you and who you are. And because we do that, we're able to dive in and engage and add value much faster because we do that deep dive discovery. And it's that person that's constantly chewing and thinking on ways to support you and engage you. For example, we have a client in the real estate space. And this guy actually is a YPO member that he brought on his staff with our company. It's called Edison, right? And Ali Jamal is actually the client. And brought him on, and Edison is going to be doing a lot of things administratively supporting their business. Well, Edison, in learning their business, because we deep dive, he's like, hey, I think there's a cool way we can automate how we post on Craigslist all your job postings, right? All your real estate postings. So our staff went, researched on YouTube, found it, ended up writing a little program that auto posts on Craigslist for their applications and immediately brought 50 grand in value to this company, more than double paid for Edison for 2 years on one idea that he brought. So we bring our people to the table that aren't just there to be reactive, but because we're deep in and do that discovery session, we can figure out other ways that we can add value much quicker because we're fully indoctrinated to you in your business. And it's about ROI. And part of it is we ask someone, hey, what is a client worth to you, right? And what's your margin that you make on that? if we can incrementally land you one additional client, what have we got to do to break even to pay for ourselves? And in the vast majority of our situation, we're adding enough value that we're not just doing 1x, we're doing 3, 4, 5, 6x times of value on that $18.95 per month, in the first 60 days. A lot of times it doesn't take much for us to find, hey, you're not doing anything in LinkedIn, or you're doing it on a very fractional basis. What if we had this person consistently posting on a daily basis? We get you one additional deal. Most people, whatever they're selling, there's enough gross margin there that they close 1, 2, 3 additional deals, especially if you look at lifetime value. But in terms of monthly cash flow, it's pretty easy to stumble across $18.95 kind of worth of, of value. But it does take an owner. If people are a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, they've got to have enough confidence in themselves,
right,
and be willing to go do the higher value activities. Right. Yep. If you get this person taking that stuff over for them, then they've got to go out and be on podcasts, go to events, go to trade shows, and go close more deals, because they're repurposing their time. If they're just going to slack off and just be more inefficient with what they're doing, then they're not going to get the ROI. So they got to be willing to go do those higher value activities once we can get that other stuff off their plate.
Yeah, you want free time, but you better be ready to utilize it, right? You want someone to take all these mundane tasks off of your plate. Well, you better get ready to fill it with going and prospecting and getting more clients and filling the funnel and being able to do, what you're best at. Love it.
And we help automate that stuff, like lead magnets you talked about. Like, I'm a fanatic about that too. I love it. Creating lead magnets, creating nurture email sequences. That's one of those things in the bucket that I haven't gotten to because not enough time, money, or knowledge. And that's one of those things we'll find a lot of times is that we'll help them create a lead magnet. We'll go in and create nurture sequences and help them get nurture content developed so they can kind of automate their sales funnels as well.
Yeah, which is very important again, but they need to have the confidence, like you said, and the product, to sell at the end. Because a lot of times there's a lot of lead generating companies that do really great jobs. They give you a ton of leads, on LinkedIn or whatever they do. The reason why people don't use them is because they'll know they'll all go to waste because they're not organized enough to go ahead and process them all in level. So that's an absolute person that needs to deal with you. But you guys do the lead gen also.
Yeah, a part of the task that we'll do for people is assisting with lead gen type of activities, right? Whether it's, and we got different philosophies and kind of our playbooks that we talk about. Like, for example, on LinkedIn, one of the things I love doing with that is a lot of people just, spew where that's concerned. So one of the things what my VA does is, so all the blogs and content and things that we've written, we create a Google Doc with a listing of all those blogs, and we categorize them by topic and title and have links to them, right? And so I have a staff that will go into my LinkedIn account and go into different online communities, small business communities, different groups, different verticals, right? We have clients in the fire protection services space. So we'll go find those and then go in there, and then she will go in there and surgically drop in links to blog articles as she sees conversations happening about, hey, I've been hearing about this VA thing. How does it work? What about time zones and so forth? She'll pop in there under me and say, hey, we actually wrote a blog article about this. And she'll go to that Google Doc list, sort it by time zone topics, sort it, grab it, and go drop it in. So help drop in content. I call it an online community ambassador kind of, strategy. So it's being very technical, but also being education kind of driven.
Very cool. The type of thing that you really do not have time to do yourself. And so you wind up not doing it all.
Exactly. And like trade shows, this is one of my favorites too, is you go to trade shows a lot of times, and a lot of these sales guys, they go to trade shows, and now trade shows have an app, right? So you log into an app and it lets you see all the attendees and everything. So I love this. Actually, when I spoke for this technology conference called SIA out in Vegas, back end of last year. So I got access as a speaker, right? So I was speaking at that event to it, and all the people that are in there. Right. So I have my VA, and I wrote the message. I read, hey, this is my first SIA conference. Super excited to be here. Would love to connect up. Here's my session and so forth. And by the way, here's my LinkedIn. Well, when you go into those, when people go create their profiles in those trade show conference apps, they put their LinkedIn profiles, their social handles, and so forth. So I have my VA log into that trade show app, go in and connect with every single attendee there, send them that personal message and say, hey, excited to be here. Look forward to connecting. Here's my session I'm speaking at. Then she logged in, found their LinkedIn, connected with them on LinkedIn, sent them a message, and got back to me, right? These are all sales guys in this room that are dying to connect with everybody, and they do it inefficiently over a bourbon at the bar or trying to connect at the trade show booth. I said, hey, how many of you all got a message from me? Every single person raised their hand. How many of you thought it was me? They all raised their hand, right? Guess what? That happened in 14 minutes, right? So in 14 minutes, I went from 0 to connected with every single one of you in this room and connected with you on LinkedIn. Now you're connected as part of my ecosystem. If you're not willing to engage now, but now you're seeing my content, you're seeing my posts, so that when that life and business event happens, which I call it the nurture wheel and the life and business event wheel, there will be a transaction at some point. I will be top of mind for you. So just another example of kind of crafty growth hacking combined with VAs and technology. You can do these creative things that let you just do things at scale.
This guy is awesome. I can't believe it took me this long to meet you. And it's not a VA, tough guy. It's a VS. Boom.
Nailed it.
So, but I mean, it makes too much sense not to do it now. And the fact is, with all the technology and all the software that's out there, when we talk about funnels or email processes and all these things, all these SaaS products are out there. Your people are proficient on all of them. Baby, all we have to do is give them access.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about, HubSpot and Salesforce and all the CRMs that are out there that people use 2% of because they just don't have time to do it.
Exactly.
So yeah, through the years and working with a lot of people, we've built proficiency on those different platforms. But I will say too, it's also unique to how that particular company uses it. If I go line up 10 companies with Salesforce, they're all using it different ways. So aside the fundamentals of knowing what a contact record is and a company record and so forth, it's how they use it. So a lot of times we do need to learn how they use it, and then we can bring additional value add activities to the table. And then a lot of times it's not rocket science. It's just somebody to actually go through, and every contact that you see that doesn't have a LinkedIn profile, go find them and put it on them and go log into my LinkedIn account and connect with all of them. That's not rocket science. It's just somebody to do the work consistently.
Right. And you won't get flagged by LinkedIn by having a third party actually doing it, would have these programs that go after it and, make all these connections that way. So
yeah, it's a very organic approach.
So LinkedIn is big. Are you finding that for business people to get started, LinkedIn is getting more and more effective at getting contacts with people?
Well, there's different approaches to LinkedIn or any of these other strategies I'm talking about, whether it's, the trade show app or whatever. Mm-hmm. People don't want to just get spammed on LinkedIn about, hey, this is what I do, right? With the same type of intro message, or they try to sound like they're trying to connect with me, and all they're doing is trying to pitch and sell me, right? It's about educating, right? And so for example, in the commercial real estate space, I got the chance to speak at one of those big conferences, and we had some case studies. So when I had someone go in, and I spoke for a conference called SIOR, the SIOR conference. SIOR is a designation that's the top 5% of commercial real estate agents. So I had someone log into my LinkedIn account and go search for people that had SIOR in their designation. They put it after their name, like a CFP or whatever else. And then I had them reach out and not say, hey, we'd love to pitch you on VAs, and when can I have a call to book with you? It's like, hey, just want to let you know I got a chance to, regard your industry. I got a chance to speak at your conference, and thought I'd share a quick case study here of an example of someone that leveraged these resources and doubled their production. And that is a link to a blog post that's an educational content on my site. And once they're on our site and they're there for 15 seconds, then a lead magnet comes down for them to opt in for the top 7 tasks and get immediate ROI on. So it's about using LinkedIn as a strategy to educate and build authority and connect with people. And then it's about pumping content consistently, right? I mean, people are constantly, even if I connect with them and they're not ready to engage now, they're seeing, like, I just took a trip to the Philippines for 10 days. I broke that trip up into about 200 bite-sized pieces of content that people are seeing, and I'm seeing on our end with our sales team, is that all of a sudden, one by one, after people have seen the 9th or 10th post and content about how everybody's doing this and our growth, and we're at 300 people, and look at our Christmas parties and yada, yada, they're like, man, I need to do this, right? So it's about connecting and outreach, but a lot of times it's not about that one and done outreach on LinkedIn. It's about connecting, producing content, and continue to educate, so that at some point on that life and business events wheel, they'll have enough pain. They'll see you top of mind, so that Brad and Outsource Access is the VA company they're going to go with when they decide to go down that path.
Yeah, it's basic old school marketing. People need to see you several times before they're interested. They know, like, and trust you to begin with, and then when they have the problem, when the pain is large enough, then they come and make things happen. So yeah, I think this is a terrific model. Who do you? I know you say you're industry agnostic, but you mentioned real estate. What size real estate person are you looking for? Are you like a new guy starting out, or do you need somebody with a couple of years under their skin before they really break out?
Yeah, I mean, and when I say industry agnostic, I mean, and function agnostic, it really has been, I mean, as we've grown, bringing that one up, commercial real estate, I mean, having launched right before COVID, I saw how certain industries just got crushed, right? And so I was going to go down certain verticals initially based on relationships and so forth, but we chose to let ourselves just grow kind of organically. That made us very diversified, which gave us good strength diversification-wise as a company. So we could kind of evolve, as such. Now we've got certain situations where we're supporting internal functions of businesses, operations and marketing and HR and so forth. And then direct kind of individuals like, commercial real estate agents, or, like I mentioned at the technology conference, it's all these high-end sales tech reps that, they make 100, 150 base, right? And they close one additional deal commission-wise. Like, it doesn't take much for one of our VAs that's supporting them, letting them do what they need to be doing. So size, honestly, we've got people that have just started, to your question, that are just starting and getting underway. Again, it's back how much confidence they have in themselves, and do they see, hey, I get this. If I can really utilize this person appropriately, then I can easily pay for them. Or you also have this just starting person that's timid. They don't have enough confidence. They're not sure. Well, let me get a year underneath my belt and bring enough commissions in that I can actually afford this. Well, it's kind of a chicken or the egg situation, right? It's like there's those that know they can invest in this and get the return, and others otherwise.
Yeah. I think it's garbage. I think everybody needs you. I think it used to be the old days when you have to get a new job, you had to buy a whole new wardrobe, a bunch of suits, and spend $4,000 or $5,000. I think screw the suit and go ahead and get yourself a VS. That's what you need. Garen Bellini is an awesome guy too.
God, you just still can't say his name.
Well, I just make it up, Bulgogi or Bellotomy. I don't care. Bellissimo.
Now it's like a surgery.
Yeah,
it's a surgical procedure.
But he sells a cool thing. I don't even know. I keep forgetting the name of it. What is it? What does he sell, Chris Stone?
Micro Studio.
Yeah, Micro Studio. It's really awesome.
Micro Studio.
What happened?
Saskatoon.
Micro Studio is awesome.
Saskatoon.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I spoke at the Saskatoon.
Go ahead.
No, I said I was speaking of in Saskatoon. It's the coldest place on the planet I've ever been, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But it's a fun word to say, Saskatoon. Anyhow, he's starting an agency, a digital agency. Are you guys good for agencies like that, social media marketing and things like that for people?
Yeah, I think we actually.
I think it would be great.
20 that we work with. So when it comes to agencies, right, and this is a challenge with the agency model, and I've seen this a ton as myself as an entrepreneur and speaking for all these organizations. Everybody's like, yeah, I got that typical agency experience. They want their $5,000 a month retainer, and they tell me it's going to take 6 to 8 months before we can actually get traction and deliver value. And then eventually 9 to 10 months later, they realize they're not getting the value. They cancel it, and they go find another one and pay another one and have that same repeat experience, right?
Yes.
And so part of the problem with the agency model I experience is they try and do too much internally, right? So at the end of the day, to make their financial model work, they got to take this, sales, account administrator and assign them to 15 clients to get enough retainer. So you're diluting that person's capability. So I'm getting a fractional mind share from someone and not getting a value that's covering or getting the ROI from my, experience. So what we found in agency owners that we've worked with is that they keep those staff. And by the way, the vast majority of what we see in our business, we're not replacing people or shipping jobs overseas. The vast majority, if you got a good strategic thinking employee these days, it's rare. You want to keep them. You just want that person waking up every day, focusing on their highest and best use and happier, right? A lot of people use us as a retention tool to keep high-end employees because they can't go anywhere else and get a full-time staff supporting them like they do with us. But
it's a great idea.
Oh, it's one of our clients.
That's a great idea. Why'd you wait an hour to get to that?
There's just so much value out proposition, but it's one of our clients. It's a great story. A guy named Chip Dodd. He's got a healthcare company in Virginia that provides in-home nurses and healthcare for nurses for indigent patients in Virginia. And he started with one staff himself, right, to try to test this out, build confidence. And he started with one of our staff and just had an amazing experience. And then his staff saw like how much of a great experience he was having. So they wanted one. So he got one for his marketing department, then operations, then HR. So now he's got 6 or 7 with us. And then he was able to, because of the freedom it created and all of these additional resources adding value to his company, he was able to go start a nonprofit. And now he travels the world as an adventure racer. And his staff now, his VA with us now, does nothing but do YouTube videos and edits to post all his global travel adventures that he does.
I'm sick and tired of this. Where have you been my whole life? I need to call you after. Hey, one last question because we do have to go. I have a manufacturing company.
Yeah.
Having challenges with this is the big thing. The reason why he's tied to the place, and they do several million. The reason why he's still tied to the place is the bidding and the quoting of the jobs is like a detailed thing where you have to make the measurements and all that stuff. Can your people be trained for stuff like that?
Well, interesting. You should ask. Actually, we didn't have chat.
Well, that's what I'm
literally
hearing.
have an example for all of these. I mean, so we have a concrete manufacturer we work with that needed help with bidding and support. So actually put their staff that we have through $1,000 course and what got them trained fully on doing bidding and filling out the proposals, doing the RFPs, right? Because RFPs, again, are not a rocket science per se thing, right? Or even portions of it, right? So you retain portions of it internally, but then you can have a staff that can be trained on how to go through and gather certain portions of it, go pre-fill certain things out. That's actually what a lot of our commercial real estate agent clients do as well. They use their staff to prepare RFPs, to gather all the data and all the information to kind of aggregate it, and then use it to prep, do a lot of the pre-work. And as they build more confidence, they have them start biting on and taking on more and parts and pieces of it. So, we actually worked with a big aluminum manufacturer at one point and did a similar type of.
All right. Well, so we're going to need to talk, but I think this is great. So it's all those tough, hard to fix situations that keep the owner involved in the business, doing the tasks that are not the highest and best use.
Their owner,
which I think is awesome. It's almost like Chris Stone. He knows that spending time with me is his highest and best use, yet he spends nearly 23 hours a day doing other than spending time with me. And so it's an issue for him that he needs to overcome with that thing. Listen, I can't tell you how pleased I am to have met you at Rome the other day. And you never come back. You're like a one and done. So it was a very fortuitous event. It's like seeing Santa Claus. He's there once a year, and I nailed him right at that time.
Yeah, I've been a member there for like a decade. And so with my staff all in the Philippines, I work from home. And that's why I'm in this big vacuum space. We just got an office redone here in my home. And so it's a big echo. Don't have anything in here yet. So don't normally sit in a big empty room. But yeah, Rome, I pop into. I need to come more often and meet more DJs of the world.
That's right.
There's only one, Brad. There's
only one, but I will introduce you to everybody. We got to hook up afterwards. Chris Stone, by the way, does Chris Stone not produce the world's best show? Is he unreal with all that stuff?
Oh man, absolutely fantastic. Podfest Expo, a good buddy of mine runs that whole show. Chris Kremitzos down in Tampa.
Oh yeah, I know Chris. Chris is great. Yeah.
Chris and I are really good buddies, really close.
Tell Chris that you know Chris Stone, and he'll buy you some gummy bears for Christmas. I mean, he's that much of a big shot there. Listen, I appreciate it. This is awesome. Stick around after we get done just for a minute or so I can talk to you. Chris Stone, once again, you outdo yourself each time. I appreciate this. And all you out there watching, remember, if you're doing everything yourself, it could be getting done better and you could do more of it. The level of which you can grow is the confidence that you have to give away those tasks. You do that and your life will get better. My man Brad is the guy to work with. You guys are the best. I'm the Dig. Let's go get him today.
Go get him.